Hello everyone, I'm back today to talk to you a little bit about the raglan shaping on your sweater with some information about marker placement as well as a little tip to help you with the little bee pattern that you'll be starting once you work your way down through the neckline and the increases to shape the front neck. So if you look on page 2 of your pattern, there's a lot of information there about the marker setup. Do take the time to read through that because it's got some great information in it for you. When you're placing the markers, you will be placing them to delineate each side of this plain stockinette section. This diagonal shaping is what is a raglan shaped sleeve. And you'll be performing increases as you work from up here at the top of the neck down to the body on either side of this particular band. She has you use a set of markers that she's got marked in the pattern as MA, MB, MC, and MD for 4 different markers. And the great thing about this is you can choose to use a different colored marker for each of those sections. And what I have found helpful if I get confused about which marker is sitting where as you're working back and forth is to set up the initial use of your markers. Let's say you can use a blue one here or something with a blue stone or a blue charm on it. And anything that has to do with marker A and the stitches that you're going to work on this side of the marker, so from your front of your sweater to this marker, highlight that with a blue highlighter. Then perhaps choose for the marker that's going to sit on this side a pink marker. And again, you could highlight everything that refers to what's happening from that marker around in pink. So you'll have each of those sections that you're going to be working separately. Note that you'll be working increases on every other row. It will give you this little sort of notched appearance on either side. So you'll want to make sure that you're not increasing or decreasing any faster. She tells you which rows you will be working the increases on to build out these sections. This diagonal shaping is what's going to be widening the front and widening each of the sleeves as well as the back. So let's flip this over for a second so you can just see that it's the same process here on the back. The last bit of helpful information will be useful once you get down through this section on the sweater. You can see that everything above this is reverse stockinette stitch. And then once you reach this point, you'll be working that fun textured pattern, which hopefully you swatched, over this reverse stockinette stitch base. And as you're increasing stitches here, and on the back, you're going to want to add in more of the bee stitches as you increase. So you can see here on this top row, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those baby bees. The next row down, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then again, because this row is now staggered over, instead of just having the original 5, I have an additional bee that I can add in there. And one thing that you may find helpful is to also, just for these initial rows until you get this pattern established, is to go ahead and mark the pattern repeats of the baby bees so you know which stitches are going to have the textured bee pattern worked on them and which stitches are the plain reverse stockinette. This will help you when you go to line up the next row because you'll be able to see that this bee is centered right here over this set of stitches. So because it's a 4-stitch repeat, you've got the 3 stitches of your plain reverse stockinette and 1 of the baby bees. And if I lift up, ooh, there's some bright sunlight there. Sorry about that. If you look at these, you'll see that this bee is centered over the middle stitch between these 2 bees, just like this bee is centered between these 2 bees. So what you'll want to know as you're working across is what is the stitch that centers those patterns. If you've marked your pattern repeats, you'll be able to line up the row beneath with that initial stitch marker so that those patterns align. Once you get these set up, it's fairly easy to see how to just read your purl bumps up to find the center point and add your little bee pattern underneath. But if you set up the markers just on these first 2 or maybe 3 rows, just to see how the pattern lines up, it will help speed you up, and you'll also be able to count over a little more easily to see where this additional bee and the bees on the further rows here, as well as your sleeves and your back, are going to need to line up. So it's not required. You certainly don't have to do that. It's just something that might be a little bit easier for you to see how the pattern lines up without having to worry so much about, am I getting this straight? Am I getting this lined up? So a couple of helpful little tips on how to set up your Raglan markers, as well as getting started on that little bee pattern. You should already have the videos that talk about working this section to work the increased cable, knit-on cable stitches that you add on here to shape your neckline, as well as the short video that I did on the increases that you'll need to work the raglan shaping as you go. So that's it for this quick session. I'm going to let you guys work away on that. Just know that once you get down to the armpit, from here everything else is easy to knit. You're just working straight down. There's no shaping, there's no crazy bits. Very straightforward from that point on. So I will be back with some more videos in a bit. We're going to talk about getting the front bands and the neckline attached. As always, if you have any specific questions that you'd like me to go over with some techniques or tips, just let me know in the Woolly Wonka Fibers Ravelry forum thread for the Beekeeper cardigan, and I'll be happy to get those made for you. All right, happy knitting!